A fine English day, a lot of cloud about, a lot of sun about, a lot of coffee about. I mean, it's all about how you feel in this nippy English weather that we've been having. And James, you've been telling me that Bristol set a record of sorts.
Coming from Bristol, where, as our fans would know, the Pakistan-Sri Lanka game was washed out without a ball bowled. It was 12 degrees. It rained the whole day. Speaking of coffee, I had a lot more coffee at that match than I will have today or even during the match. So yeah, I'm personally very happy to be back in London, where it's a little nippy, but far better than soggy, wet Bristol.
And that's the good news because, yes, there'll be some cloud about, but we will have a good contest tomorrow. It is one of the biggest games a World Cup could have. It's India versus Australia. India playing their second game. Australia, for them, it'll be their third game. And we'll be at the Oval. As you can see behind us, 2 games out of 3 so far in this World Cup have produced high totals in excess of 300. It could be another big scoring game because we have 2 batting lineups that are doing exceedingly well. You have Australia. First of all, let's talk about Australia. They've started well against Afghanistan, who were brave, but at the same time, they never really troubled Australia. Australia didn't get out of second gear in that game. In the next game against West Indies, they provided a lot more challenge with the short stuff and everything. And yet, Australia always find a way, don't they? I mean, losing that many early wickets with Steve Smith showing his class all over again. Nathan Coulter-Nile coming at number 8, scoring 90 odd, just shows the depth in that Australian batting lineup.
Yeah, I think even before we get to the depth, it's Australia at the World Cup. They're a team with a fantastic World Cup record. Keep in mind, like we keep saying, 3 months ago, nobody was talking about this Australian team. But back come David Warner and Stephen Smith. Back comes Mitchell Starc, who really was the match winner. I know Nathan Coulter-Nile scored that 92, which again speaks of the depth. But again, West Indies were on course. But then Mitchell Starc getting those 5 wickets. For me, he is the key figure as well here as India. I know this track is pretty flat, but the way that Starc can get the ball to move around, especially in the latter half of the game, the danger man for me is Mitchell Starc.
Well, it could be a contest between the 2 bowling attacks. Australia have done well. They did well against Afghanistan, did well against West Indies. Restricting the West Indies, that was always going to be key. Yes, they were held by a few umpiring decisions here and there, but over the course of a tournament, over the course of a series, those umpiring decisions just even themselves out. You cannot take anything away from the way Australia fought in that game, and that's what Australia do, don't they? They fight. Talking about India, their bowling attack started really well. Jasprit Bumrah in fine form, Yuzvendra Chahal, Kuldeep Yadav, even Hardik Pandya. India's bowling attack set up that victory in Southampton. So James, it could be on Sunday, it could actually be bowling attack versus bowling attack on a pitch that is, or on a ground that is used to producing 300 plus totals.
Absolutely, and I think let's not forget Bhuvneshwar Kumar. He didn't get the wickets up front, but 5 overs for like 20 odd runs, kept the pressure on while Bumrah took the wickets, and then Bhuvneshwar came back and got 2 wickets at the end. So really, if you look, to my mind, India have perhaps the best bowling attack in this World Cup, and I say that with full awareness of the fact that Australia have Starc and Pat Cummins, as well as Nathan Coulter-Nile. But it's India's bowling, and I think the fact that India were not pushed into third gear in that match against, frankly, a fairly poor South African side perhaps works well because they've ticked off the win. They ticked off a lot of boxes, and now coming to the Oval, like you said, a ground that has runs, that bowling, and keep your eyes on Jasprit Bumrah. I would like to see India bowl first and really put in Australia under pressure because they are a batting lineup that the West Indies put under pressure. Credit to Steve Smith, Alex Carey, and of course Coulter-Nile. But against India, you're not going to find a way out once Chahal and Kuldeep come on, and Hardik Pandya, as you said.
Well, Hardik Pandya might just be the one weakness because if the conditions are not nippy, India's 5th bowler becomes a problem. But then Kedar Jadhav is always there. He can be relied upon for a few overs. But as much as this is going to be a bowling attack versus bowling attack, you cannot deny that both these batting lineups are big powerhouses. Rohit Sharma did not get any runs in the warm-ups, but that 100, Virat Kohli said it was one of his best 100s, and I can't really disagree. He showed us that he had a totally different batting gear. He could just take his time even in an ODI game. Of course, the target was not that big. South Africa were coming at India, so they could World Cup opening match. They could really come at the Indian batting lineup, but they had the time. My only concern is that middle order still looking shaky. If that had been 280 odd with Dale Steyn or even Lungi Ngidi available, South Africa might have caused a few problems. Alternatively, you look at Australia's batting lineup, Aaron Finch, Usman Khwaja. That top order yes, Finch got runs against Afghanistan, but against a better bowling lineup, West Indies, he didn't. So there are weaknesses in that batting lineup, but I think batting versus batting might just be a sideshow here in this game.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Usman Khawaja before the World Cup was the leading run getter in ODIs this year. Played a lot of cricket. But again, you have Finch, who until a couple months ago was not scoring runs, and he got runs against India and Pakistan. So yes, there is an opening there, and I think the fact that India have Bumrah and Bhuvneshwar up front, they expect early wickets. And then again, so much is dependent on David Warner and Steve Smith. If they can, perhaps get Stoinis, Maxwell, and then Nathan Coulter-Nile does not step up, then perhaps Australia's batting is the weaker side. But again, India's middle order, KL Rahul got 100 in the warm-up match. Batted number 4 in the first game, got 24 odd. Is not a batsman who really has form or success in the one-day format. And then Jadhav coming back in. Dhoni's had a very good year, but again, he takes time to get going. So really, as you said, I think it's going to be a showcase between the two bowlers on both sides, on this pitch as well.
And you know what? Everybody is looking forward to that India-Pakistan game on June 16. It is always great when the arch rivals are playing against each other. But let me tell you, India versus Australia in a World Cup, it's not a rivalry that's talked up too much. And I think it's a cracker of a game, exactly. And, in this game, it comes with a lot of recent backstory. We're not going, in the past, what happened in 2011 at Ahmedabad, or what happened in Johannesburg 2003, or even the semi-final in 2015. Let's not go that far back. Let's go back to January, where India won in Australia 2-1. And let me tell you, it was not an easy win for India, because they were made to work hard by a second-string Australian batting lineup, and even a second-string Australian bowling lineup. They did not have Warner and Smith. They did not have Mitchell Starc or Pat Cummins. And then that side came to India, and they beat them 3-2. And India were also second-string in that series in March, because they were experimenting after taking a 2-0 lead. So these teams, both these teams, have exchanged body blows, and tomorrow it could just come to a head.
Absolutely. And I think, in fact, you go back to the India series, that is the series which brought Australia back in the reckoning. It's what gave the Australian fans renewed faith in Aaron Finch, the captain who couldn't buy a run before that. And really, that is the reason why we are here even talking about Australia as one of the tournament favorites. Whatever happened in India transpired was a major shot in the arm for Australia. And of course, now with Mitchell Starc back and Warner and Smith, they're looking like really tournament favorites. A cracker of a game.
There you have it, Sunday afternoon. 3 favorites coming into this tournament: England, India, Australia. It's the matchup, first matchup between the tournament favorites. It's India versus Australia. It's Sunday.